Hey everyone who's joining. I am 23 followers away from hitting 10,000. And I'm going to give a Starbucks giveaway card or a gift card to someone in the space when I hit my 10,000 followers. So if I could get your support, you want to come up and talk. Been doing Twitter Spaces for just over a year, and I'm super excited to do this with the community.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, George, nice to see you. Long time no
Yeah.
see. All right, so I'm seriously at okay, so I'm 22 away from 10,000 followers. It's a pretty big deal. I didn't know that I just like couldn't even imagine last year in March when I reboosted my account
Hmm.
that I would be able to
You're muted.
oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that I'd get to 10,000 followers. If you'd have asked me a year ago, I've been like, oh yeah, that's for big accounts or people with lots to say. I see we have a guest. Is it Catan? Is that how you say your name?
Hi Samantha, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm super excited. I'm 22
Yeah,
away from 10K.
yeah,
So you got to stay on the line and we got to invite some people in and see if we can hit the 10,000 followers today. I know when I wake up in the morning, I probably would have hit 10,000, but I wanted to be on a live. I wanted to be up and watching if I hit it today.
yeah. You definitely did it. You will. Yeah,
Oh, Philip's here. Philip, you're going to help me hit 10K. I'm 22 followers away from 10K, my friend. I am so glad you're here. Please don't leave because I love if you're here for the big celebration because you and I know each other really well and we've been through lots of amazing projects together. So it's pretty cool that you're here for this.
Mhm. Samantha, I have a question for you. You were
Sure.
telling me that there's a way to unfollow, to cause a person to unfollow you. On a person who follows me, you said to click the hamburger, but there's no hamburger. There's only the three dots, which don't give me the ability to unfollow somebody or to
Oh,
have somebody unfollow me, I mean.
I don't know if you can do that on on mobile for sure. On desktop there's the three dots and then you click it and then almost at the bottom it says remove this follower.
Remove this. Yes, I do have remove this follower.
There you go. And
Okay,
they but we're about following today, George,
that's
not
great. I know. Thank you. That's good. I found it. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Hey, there's Sherry
Yeah,
from
that way
New
you don't have to
Zealand.
block
Sh-
anyone.
Sherry's from back. Sherry told me she's back in New Zealand. I can't believe we're talking to somebody from New Zealand. Come
Yeah,
join us, Sherry.
it's pretty
Maybe she can.
amazing. Well, Philip here is from Kenya. So I hope to hear from you, Philip. You're going to help me hit, I need 22 followers to hit 10K. I would like to be able to be on the line and be able to watch it flip to 10K.
I'll pour some champagne into my phone if you want.
Okay.
Actually, I don't have any champagne. I have Prosecco.
I could short. Okay, go ahead, Philip. Are you up?
Yeah, good morning from Nairobi, Samantha. How are you doing? It's been a minute.
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's nice to hear your voice. It's been a while.
Yeah, I took a long break. It's good to be back on these digital spaces. And yeah, I'll support you to the quest to reach 10K. Good to see you, George.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Good to see you too. Hey, Sherry, you in New Zealand? You back? Can't hear you if you. I see your mic is unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Is this any better?
Yes, we can
There
hear
we
you
go.
now.
Okay, right. I actually opened a Twitter space last night at about 2 or 3 a.m. That was after a Zoom meeting I had in India and there were some artists. And then I started practicing piano at a totally weird time and decided to open a space.
But you're back in New Zealand now,
Yes, I
right?
am.
Oh, I
Yes.
can't believe I'm talking to somebody from New
And the
Zealand.
next week, I'm
Amazing.
playing a concert to celebrate the 4th of July, so I better get practicing. Sometimes I listen to space in
Where
practice.
are you gonna where are you doing the spot? Oh, you're doing it on
Twitter space.
the Twitter space,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Huh, yeah. Good.
So should I tell some stories to see if we can, maybe I should put that on the top there. Tell some stories to get people to come in this space or tweet it out. What's your ideas about how I can gain 20 more followers?
Well, I'll share it right now.
Sweet. Oh, what just happened to my account? Any ideas for everyone? Usually I'm sharing pretty serious stuff, or I'm a guest on a show, or I'm sharing how to monetize or how to run your business. But today it's just literally celebrating with people I know. So I'm really glad that Philip's here, Dr. M and George, and some new friends to celebrate this milestone. It's a pretty big deal. 10,000 followers is insane. Like, that's insane.
It really is.
It's a big milestone, and it's the one that allows us a super follow application. So exciting times.
Not in Canada, my friend. I just have to wait for Elon Musk.
Right.
Maybe Elon's got some ideas about how to verify people internationally, and then the rest of the world can get in on that.
So is that a matter of where your location is set in Twitter, or how
It's a matter of it's the finance, it's the money.
Oh, right. Yeah, makes sense.
It's a money issue, and it's just
it has to do with taxation, actually, mostly because
Yep.
because the IRS tracks who they're paying for expenses, and they can't really track, like, to keep it all above board. So when they're paying an American, there's all ways to track that with your W-4s and their expenses. And so that's part of the reason why it's only restricted to the US at this point. It has to do with taxation and reporting.
Elon Musk is fantastic about being able to circumvent government regulations. So I think he's going to, it will come when he takes over.
Yeah, I think so, because when, so if any of you are in this space right now and you just joined in, thank you for coming. I'm going to give a $25 gift card away for Starbucks. So I'm going to announce a winner partway through once I hit 10,000, and I'll send an email for $25 for Starbucks. But I wanted to say about there was a Spark program for the Americans. They could apply, and they got paid $2,500. I think it was $2,500 a month to run 2 spaces a week. And it was, you had to apply and be a creator. And at the time when they first started the program, there was like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Twitter spaces. But honestly, some of the best ones, in my opinion, were coming out of Africa. And they were not eligible for the Spark program because they were not from the United States. Well, they gave it to these Americans, and some of them actually weren't even that great of spaces. They were people that were coming over from Clubhouse.
Yeah.
They didn't know Twitter very well, or maybe it worked over on Clubhouse, didn't on Twitter, and they didn't support the internationals, the contributors. And I don't know if this is the whole reason why, and maybe Philip has something to say about it because he's from Kenya. But I think that it turned a lot of the amazing African creators off because they weren't awarded and rewarded for the like a massive amount of investment they were putting into Twitter, like the American residents. But would you say that that's true, Philip?
Absolutely. I think Twitter Spaces really benefited from Africans contributing and African bringing in vibrancy, and it's really. I remember there was at one point a bunch of Africans on Spaces actually boycotted Twitter Spaces just because of that program. So I think it's time also that Africans get a seat on the table, because in terms of conversations, in terms of hosting vibrant conversations on Twitter Spaces, Africa is actually leading in terms of storytelling. So I think it's time also to be recognized in that front.
Yeah, so I think that Elon will be a good contribution for when it comes to international, like distributing for international opportunities. And there's an app actually that you can type out what each social media contributes in revenue to a particular country. So when Nigeria was shut Twitter down, you can actually go onto this app. It's brilliant, and you can type in what hours or what days and the social media app, and it will literally tell you how much revenue is being shorted from that country. It's insane. So every time a country or an area has a blackout, And I know that's really common in Kenya because sometimes Philip and I work together on international projects. And so sometimes he has a blackout and he can't attend our meetings. Well, that's actually costing the country immense amount of revenue every time there's a blackout and people don't have opportunities to get onto social media. It is mind blowing how much money goes into countries by being able to access social media. So when Nigeria decided to shut Twitter down because they were ticked off, that it really cost that country in a major, like from in their farther economy, it majorly cost them. So it's smart for Elon to be able to open up an international market and make monetization available to everyone.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do that.
Well, right now he's trying to get it cheaper, I guess, or to make sure that he's getting his money's worth.
His rate of innovation is insane. It's gonna be so much. I was predicting today on the Twitter, what is it called, the social audio spaces thing that Madeline Assu's that the rate of innovation, particularly with spaces, is going to increase tremendously. And before Elon arrives, because the teams want him to see that the team is functioning and innovating,
right?
Or else he'll fire them, because he's got no patience for people who sit around, and think about things for 6 months. He wants people doing, trying, failing, correcting, doing more. That's his model. That's his mode. We have every reason to believe that that's what'll happen with Twitter. Yeah. They'll try a load of things.
All right, we've got to try to do some innovative ideas for 20 more followers. It's kind of quiet tonight. So
it is quiet.
It is. So should I give some, let's see here, monetization ideas? What's like some good ideas? What do you all want to hear from me?
Yeah, you can continue with monetization. It would be good for me.
So how about, I used to run these spaces when I first, like last year. So I'm a serial entrepreneur with some serious business background. So I used to run these spaces and they were called business side hustle and startup Q&A. So you could come up and ask me any question you wanted about your business and I would help you out, or someone on the speaker panel would give you some advice to help you out with your business. So why don't we do that? Anyone in the space today has a business question, come up, ask anything, and we'll see what you can do. You should see the minds that are up on the top panel here. There's a number of us that are quite accomplished in many careers. So we'll probably be able to help you out. So if you've got a business question or for a side hustle or startup, you literally have some top minds in the world at your access right now.
That's true.
Should I put in the top 3 business advice?
Yeah, well, followers rally and celebration isn't a benefit to the people who are scanning.
I think that the title.
So I would put it.
Should I retitle it?
Yes.
All
yes,
right.
definitely.
Starbucks gift card giveaway is fine, but the idea is ask me anything business or personal, or personal growth, or
just do AMA. AMA with Samantha Postman or something.
Well, like I'll do business, because you know what? For any of you who are in the room, it does not work to just do. I've tried this. It's actually tested.
Yeah.
It does not work to just go AMA. You actually literally have to say what the AMA is.
Oh,
so
that's true.
I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't work because people don't know what.
It doesn't communicate value, right?
Got another follower. 9982.
George is counting them.
This is cool.
All right, there we go. Anyone in the room have a question for business?
Who's got a business question or a personal growth question? Any question?
Samantha, I am curious. How did you get into you've said before I forget where, but that you used to do more consulting with people. I'm just curious how you got into that. like paid consulting?
Do you mean like well, first of all, I'm a tax expert by first trade. So anyone in the room, I'm a tax expert by first trade. And so obviously a lot of my clients were business, so corporates, sometimes to sole proprietors. And also I run two companies, two corporations. In Canada, the way corporations are run are a little different. Like they have their own tax return with special rules. In the US, if you own a corporation, you could just add that to your personal return. It's not like that in Canada. And so it's a bit more complex. So I really have quite an understanding of business. Plus, I also have a business degree. So that's kind of how I got into it. It was just mostly I started with doing when I owned a business, the farm, and then I would, because I did so many tax returns and many of them are business. Now, here's the thing with income tax. Mostly I did personal tax, to be honest, but a lot of people had businesses, but everybody who comes to me, like most people who came to me, worked for a business. So I saw both ends of the spectrum. And so that really equipped me because I understood what it was like to be the worker, the accountant, the marketer, all when I did 7,500 tax returns, you see every facet of business and organization there really is, not just doing the business books. So because I saw T4s, I saw how people spent their money, I heard what people would say about businesses because taxes is very vulnerable. And so when they'll just tell you everything and anything at that point. And so I just used that to leverage myself for doing other business background. It was kind of by accident, people would ask me business advice. And after many years, I was just able to give advice. And partially because I'm also a polymath. And so a polymath is someone who's multidisciplined. And so I'm able to listen to almost any industry there is and be able to speak that language or a close enough language to whatever industry they're in and then apply business advice. So these rooms I used to run about business startup and side hustles were very popular. It was really fun because, I might get somebody maybe in like South Africa who's like maybe 19 years old starting up a drone business. And he'd be like, oh, you probably don't know anything about drones, but I'm starting up this egg drone business. And I'm like, actually, my husband and I farm, and my son has built his own drones and he runs drones over one of the biggest farms in Canada and does like geomapping and stuff. And he was like, sweet. And so I was able to give him some advice because I had that background.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the principle of consulting is when you know something that will improve the client's condition dramatically.
Hello,
So
guys.
they can't wait to give you money to tell you how to do that.
I greet you all, guys. My name is Mohammed Cham. I am from the Gambia, West Africa, the Smiling Coast. I come here to know what is going on here and to hear you guys can tell me more ideas in this world. As you all guys can see, I'm a younger boy, but I dropped out from school. I used to help old people in this world. I used to go to the forest for looking firewood there and give old people for free in this world. As you can see, this is the life. People need to nurse each other and support each other so that we can grow up. Me, I'm living with my old mama and my little sibling, three people. The condition is so sad with me, but the honest, I really used to help old people in this world because I'm a strong man, and the old people they are not strong man. I can do that work so hard, and that work is so hard. Old people cannot do that. So me, I'm a strong man. Why I cannot help old people in my heart and support them to look firewood and give them because they cannot do
How
that
do you
hard
support
work.
them,
Me, I
Lamin?
can
Tell
do
us
that.
about it. How do you support do you have a business where you support them, or is this something you do as a serving as part of your heart?
Because I drop out from school, I see I'm sitting at home for nothing. So I'm seeing old people, they are crossing the way I'm sitting, they are going to forest. I stop them, I ask them, why you all you people are going to forest? Because that place are not safe. So they told me they are going to look there a firewood so that they can get at home. I told them, wait, because you old guys are so old and you old guys are not strong. Me, I'm a strong man, so I will help.
Lamin, hey, I love that your heart is for older people because that's really necessary. I just want to make sure that we have enough space tonight for anyone, or this morning if you're in Africa, to ask a business question, because there are some people in the room who'd like to ask some business questions. So if you've got a question business related, love to hear it. Otherwise, we'll have to save the story part for a different space when the stories are part of the content.
I just want to say something here, but I'm feeling so scared, and I'm feeling cannot understand, because I feel so scared here. I'm feeling so scared because my condition. In the honest, in the name of God, I need you all guys support and help. What you all guys have, I appreciate it. But I'm feeling so scared to tell you. It's not my wish. I can ask about help. Just one day, me too, I want to start my life. But at this
Lamin,
moment,
I'm sorry.
since
Hey, Lamin, I'm sorry. Maybe, yeah, this is something you could tweet out and ask for some advice for when you don't feel confident, some tips or some tools or resources or mindsets for it. I would really recommend, maybe Dr. M, you could send him a link to Indra's channel. I have a friend, her name is Indra, and she does these amazing YouTube channel and really helps with mindsets, which I think you will find very helpful. So my friend Dr. M, who's up in the panel with us, will maybe DM you a link so you can take a look through there and access those resources. So I thank you for coming up. And at this time, I'm going to just hand the mic over. I think, Chetan, you had a business question for us?
3 days without.
Who was that you were asking?
I'm not sure if it's Chetan or Chetan, if he had a business idea for us or business question for us. No, I'm sorry. Maybe he's just away from the mic. Originally, he said. So anyone who's come into the room, we have two things going on today. First is you have a panel of some very accomplished business people. So if you have a business startup or a side hustle and you are stuck or you're at a place where you'd like to ask a question, come on up to the speaker, come up to the speaker so you can ask a question. The second part is mostly why I opened this space is because I am 17 followers away from 10,000. That's where the Starbucks gift card comes in. And so when I hit 10,000 followers, I'm going to give away a $25 gift card to Starbucks if you DM me your email, but only after I hit 10,000 followers. So I started out with Twitter Spaces back in March and April, and I was running quite a few spaces on business startup and side hustle Q&As. And so I guess it makes a lot of sense to ring in the 10,000K doing the same thing. So if anyone has a business question or startup or side hustle, please ask. It could be marketing related, how to monetize, how to expand your market, how to use Twitter to monetize, finances. I have a really strong finance background. So could be contract basis. I have a legal background as well. So anyone in this space who has a business question, please come on up and ask. It's like so quiet, man. If you have no idea the minds are there in this room, you all have an opportunity to ask. Like, I'm not joking. People pay us, like George used to charge $1,000 an hour or more.
Way more than that.
Way more than that. So I'm telling you, yeah. And like some of the consulting I've done is some big stuff. I like, yeah. So you have some big minds up here. So come on up and ask a question.
So one thing from my side is, Samantha, what should be the prerequisite to start any business, and to remember the points to be just in a mind to start any business from the perspective of the finance. How do we just put something in my minds and remember the point to be just start in a business? So what are the input from your side?
So do you have a business started yet, or you're thinking about one, you have one in mind and you're trying to figure out how to pull the money together? Which one of those?
Yeah, second one.
So you have a business in mind. Can you tell me what your business idea is?
Yeah. So like I'm into the freelancing from 6 months. So I'm just monetize my skills to the another level, like freelancing and all. So
Okay. What
how I
freelancing
What
are you?
skills? What skills?
Yeah. What freelancing? What kind of freelancing skills are you
I'm
offering?
doing development. I develop apps for the businesses like startups and all.
What kind of apps? Like in what kind of industry? So finance industry, creatives, productivity, what kind of apps?
Any kind of app, I just make it. Like I am working on the Upwork and all. So yeah,
So like, is it
Android
no code or
applications.
coding apps?
Yeah, coding apps.
Okay, so can you tell me about one of the projects you did that went really well? Like what kind of app did you create?
Yeah, I have created two apps. Like one is the news app, like which is fetching the newses all from all over the world.
Okay.
So it also contain the feature like you can just read aloud feature. Like in this you can if you tap one tap button, so that it just read all the news for you.
Okay.
And another one is like e-commerce application for the groceries and all, like some like big groceries, so you can just purchase the things from there. So these are the two apps I have worked
And
on.
which one gave you joy that you were really excited about and thought I could do 20 more of these and I'd be a happy man?
Yeah, so second one's like give me joy, like the e-commerce application, which is it's a really related to myself. Like if I'm going to purchase something, so that uh, it is on my mobile phone. Like I just order something and all, so the whole market is on my mobile phone, on my palm. Yeah.
So what you're saying, out of all the projects you've done so far, the one that gave you joy that you could see
Yeah.
yourself doing for quite a while was the e-commerce app
Yeah.
for groceries.
Yeah.
All right. So that's where I'd start, because you have momentum for it, and you've got a proven record, and you have a testimony already. And
Yeah.
so that's what you can start with. So when you're looking at starting, I don't know if I'm going to back up before we get to the finance bit, but what you can do to start with is create a portfolio of what you've put together so far.
Okay.
And did you earn an income off of this, or is this something you kind of did pro bono to build your credibility up?
Yeah. For these app, I didn't get any income like for now, but I'm starting to just go out and just making, like you say, as you said, it making a portfolio. So I'm thinking like that, how I can monetize these skill, and just going into that, how is it working, and how the finance could help me there, like how can I monetize that skill.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
I have a couple of ideas for you. And so some of them may not work perfectly for you, just because it's really hard because I haven't worked with you directly for a long period of time. And sometimes some of the things I say may not seem like they're relevant now, but they'll spark an idea
Yeah.
for something bigger and later. Or sometimes a month later you go, oh, okay, now I know how to use that,
Yeah.
or that's relevant. So what happens because, like, especially my LinkedIn, people see my credentials and they constantly are sending me like, hey, I want to make an app for you, or can I do, they're always trying to pitch me to do work for me. And
Yeah.
what I will tell you will sell. So first I'm going to tell you how to land a client, and then we'll just talk a little bit about finance after that. But I want to focus on landing a client, because the finance, especially the freelance, it's not you have a very low expenses other than your time. And, right now you need to gain some revenue. So what stands out for me, and I swear to you, no one does this, by the way. And 2 seconds before I answer, I'm just going to make, sorry, Dr. M, I'm just going to add you as a co-host, and George, I'm going to add you as a co-host because I have a few requests coming up, and then I don't have to worry about managing it. So what you do is you can go onto LinkedIn and look up people who are running grocery stores and could use an app like that. So you can do quite a bit of searching through LinkedIn, or just even your local grocery stores, or seeing what's local. You can use Google Maps for that. And then go send them ideally going to them is actually even more personable, but you can send them an email and introduce yourself and show them the app you already made. So like, say, here's a sample of what I've done. This is how it works. And you for sure want to attach a testimony from the company that you already worked for. And it doesn't matter that you didn't have an income from it. You still provided value to them. So they should be willing to give you a testimony. This will get you very far. The other thing that you can do that works really well, and this is going to set like this will probably help you blow up, but if you start creating YouTube videos where you like show how you made the app, there's a couple
Yeah.
things that could build out of that. One, you start to look like an expert because you're showing people how to do it. And I get that in lots of ways you're starting out, but you only
Yeah.
have to be a little further than other people. So you'll start to gain an audience. So a couple things could happen. You could actually find out too, one, that you love building these apps, or two, you'd much rather teach people how to build these apps. So if
Yeah.
you teach people, you can create courses, which would create a passive income for you. So you could create these courses and then just sell these courses if you wanted to, or you could sell, do them live. But by
Yeah.
doing YouTube videos showing people how you create these apps, you're setting yourself as an authority in that field. So, and then when you pitch to people, you can say, here's my YouTube channel where I show you how I build these apps. And you right away will give yourself credibility simply because you think yourself well enough to teach people how to build the apps. So you can do that through like Loom or any of those things. So those are some ways that you can connect. And then when you do reach out to these grocery stores, and you make sure you're attaching examples. And I would do a screenshot, like a video, not just a link, so that they can, embed the YouTube video or whatever it is you're going to send to them. Make sure that it's obvious. It's not just some text. And the other thing is, if you're sending it someone locally, that's fine. I don't know what your written skills are like. So sometimes we speak perfectly, but our written skills are lacking. Make sure you have a native speaker to the industry, that the area you're talking to, go through your copy or through your email to make sure that the English is perfect. And I'll just give you an example. Like my friend Philip up there, who's got the purple, he's in Kenya. He speaks perfect English and he writes perfect English. But when him and I correspond, some of the phrases he uses they don't quite transfer for Canadians. So he'll like, kindly do this, kindly do that. And it's a little bit offsetting actually to a Canadian. It's sort of, I don't even know how to quite explain it, but it's not quite right. And it's a little bit like a bit of a passive aggressive in sort of a way, but he's actually meaning please. I'd love it if you could do this. And so if I was going through his copy, I would literally just say, you need to replace kindly with please. If he was trying to speak with a Canadian or a North American. Now in Kenya, the people who speak English in Kenya, that is a perfect word, but it's not when you're working with a North American. And so that's something that I see a lot when people are pitching to me. They're not using my Canadian English or my North American English to speak to me. So that's really important because we right away will pick up that you're an international, and it's harder for people to gain trust for an international because, what if we pay you and you take off, or what if you don't, what if you don't give me the passwords or something like that. So you want to create trust. And before I go to the next speaker, because we've got some coming up, I want to add one more bit to it. If you want to work, where are you from again? You said, so where in Africa did you say you were from again?
Yeah, I'm from India.
Oh, India. Okay, if you
Yeah.
want to work in North America, which is usually when I have people from India come on, they want to work with North Americans. Here's what you
Yeah.
need to do. You need to find somebody in your network that is living in the United States or Canada, and you need to
Yeah.
do some work for them, even if it's free, and you need to get a testimony from them that shows that they're from North America, because then that will give you a lot more credibility because you've worked with a North American and they're like, oh, that North American worked, he did some work for that North American. Okay, I can trust this guy from India. He's more trustworthy. So find a family member, a friend of a family member, somebody that lives in North America, and do some work for them and start getting some testimonies from them. And that will help immensely, especially if I see a testimony from a grocery store that I'm familiar with in North America. I'll be like, oh, he's done North American work. So those are some tips about like how you can get started, how you can prospect. And then the finance part of it, if you're already working at another job, and I'm not sure what your situation is, you generally need you need at least, I used to say at least 3 months of, well, I actually used to say 4 months. So 3 months to give it a go. And if it's not working after 3 months and you're like getting super in the hole and can't feed your family or you've got 1 month to find a job and to supplement, whether it's part-time or you need to pivot or something. So ideally you want some cushion for about 4 months, just because it gives you a little less stress. Some people will argue with me and say that the stress is good for you. It makes you push harder and try to get revenue and push harder on marketing. It's just a difference of opinion. All my years of doing taxes, like a lot of them, I rarely saw that method work, where if they were super tight on income, that it made them work harder. It usually just made them more stressed out and shut down. So having a little wiggle room for some months to be able to focus, and your bills are getting paid, is very important. Is that helpful, or do you have any more questions?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good. I just note down all the points and I just give a shot to them and just waiting for the results and all. Thank you very much, Samantha, for that. Thank you.
Also, if you need that cushion, by the way, you're going to make me co-host, Samantha, but if you need the cushion, you might want to get the cushion in a job that will teach you more about how to do applications for people, in the field where you want to do your freelancing.
Yes, definitely.
In case that's not obvious, let's name that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's something I recommend. Like, sometimes when people come to me, they know I'm a farmer and they want to get into organic farming. But the first thing I always say is, have you worked at an organic farm? And they're like, no, I didn't even grow up on a farm and never worked at one. And I'm like, okay, you need to go work for an organic farm before you start with an organic farm, because for lots of reasons, which we're not going to get into, but that's always surprising to me. But you have already done this app, so I didn't get to that. But anyone in the room here, if you have not ever done something that you were trying to do for the first time, you need to work for someone first. And when I started doing taxes, I worked for a company for many years before I went out on my own. And when I went out on my own, it was super fast, because all the systems, the frameworks, everything had been pre-tested by the company I worked at. I literally just hung up my shingle and started saying, I'm doing taxes from home now. And I was like lineups of people, and I didn't have to figure out what software to use. I didn't have to figure out how to file or what order or what I should be printing and what needs to go to the government, because I'd already figured that out under somebody else's umbrella.
Also, if you play your cards right, sometimes the person you're working for will give you their blessing to go out on your own and even invest in you. My first company, my friend and I were working for it. We decided there was another business that was related, but we knew the owner of the company wouldn't be interested in it. We went to him. We said, we're going to be leaving the company, and we appreciate your mentorship. And we wanted to give you the right of first refusal to invest in our company. And he said, oh, wow. I mean, of course I want to invest in your company and do everything we can to make it a success. And I will make a lot of money out of it too. And we went with his not only blessing, but investment and tremendous support. It was largely responsible. It was one of the factors that was responsible for our success. So it's not a hostile thing.
That reminds me, George. The other thing you can do is that company that you did the grocery store app for, go to them and ask them to refer you to 10 people. Now, they might only give you 5, but even still, because then when you go to those people, you can say, oh, this grocery store referred me to you. I did an app for them, and that right away gives you credibility. So that will extend credibility. So in my circles, I know a lot of young adults, and I know a lot of local businesses, and the businesses will come to me and say, I'm looking for this type of person, or this job is open. And I will go to my young adults, or I usually know somebody that I know is a good fit. And when I'll say, hey, you should hire Chris. 95% of the time, the person that I recommend gets the job, simply because I put my name on them. So don't underestimate. Go ahead.
Also,
George.
when you go to the person, do not ask them to do it as a favor to you. Ask them to do it as a favor to the person they're referring. In other words, you can, since you're starting out, give a good deal to somebody, and it's very much in the interest of one of their colleagues to use you, so they get something out of it. the referral and the goodwill of referring you. So they're not doing it as a favor for you. They're doing it as a favor for them in their own interest and in the interest of the person that they're referring to you.
Yeah. So frame
Do
it
not
as
ask for
give
do not
rather
ask for favors.
like a give rather than an ask.
Sorry, you were saying?
Like to frame it as a give rather than an ask.
Exactly.
Yeah, will do.
All right, great. Well, hopefully that's helpful for other people in the space. So for any of you who are just joining, the reason for this space is because I am just a few
15.
followers away. Oh, how many? Oh, I'm 14.
15 new followers away.
I'm 15 new followers. Oh, no, it's less than that now. I'm 12 followers away from 10K. And in celebration, I'm giving away free advice that people pay me a lot of money for business advice. So I'm giving away free advice. And after I get to 10,000 followers, I'm going to send $25 Starbucks gift card to someone in the space today as a celebration for hitting 10K. The reason why I'm giving free business advice away is because when I started out on Twitter Spaces, I had a lot of free time on my hands while I was pivoting companies. And I often ran free Ask Me Anything Q&As for business startup and side hustles. So it seems fitting to have a celebration where I do that today. So we've got a few more people who've come up to speaker panel. If you've got a question about where your business or a startup, whether you're starting or you're stuck at a spot and you just want a micro consultant to help you out, come up to and ask to speak. I saw that Mary has come up. So Mary, you have the floor. Please start asking your questions.
Hey, thank you for this space, Samantha. It's great to have you here, and it's a great space. My question comes, and congratulations for almost reaching 10K. I would love to know, how do you stay consistent and as a polymath, and also, yeah, in general, in business, in life goals, and everything. Like, how do you stay consistent and yeah, like achieving your goals, your daily goals? What's your secret?
Did you say for getting assistance?
For
Yeah,
staying consistent. Is that what it was, Mary? For staying consistent? That's what I heard.
Yes.
So the secret is doing what you love and being passionate. Now, that's twofold. One is pursuing your passions. And George has an exercise, so I may open up the floor after if we don't get any more speaker requests. I may have him help you do an exercise here because it's pretty profound. The other is just being happy at where you're at and finding everything an adventure. So some of you will be surprised to know that I actually worked at McDonald's for 4 years when I was a teenager, because back then that was the only job I could get. I had no network. I had no name. I was born to a teen mom. I was a welfare kid. I had absolutely no one, not even one person in my network who could help me find a job. And I had no credentials. I had a newspaper route before that and some babysitting jobs, and a lemonade stand was on my resume. And I went to McDonald's and they were willing to hire me. And I promise you, and I'm not joking, I freaking loved working there. I loved the pace. I loved the challenge. They put me in drive-through right away because I was super fast and I would win all these challenges, because I was so fast. And I just liked the people. I liked learning about the food industry. I learned a lot about policy and procedures, and eventually, no time, I started training. And then when I went to university, I applied for a scholarship and worked part-time. So it's really attitude. You need to have an attitude of gratitude. I was happy to have a job. And that is part of being a polymath, like just loving the learning at wherever you're at. You don't always have to be doing something that you were passionate about to begin with. I promise you, I wasn't passionate about working at McDonald's when I was 15 years old, but I learned to be passionate about it because I genuinely just love learning. And so a polymath at the core loves learning. And so that's my secret. I'm just consistent on, so I worked there for 4 years, which isn't typical of a polymath. We don't always stay at something for 4 years. I did taxes for over 20 years. But one thing that people don't realize, but with polymath, and maybe what I'll just do is explain what a polymath is for everybody who's in the room is like, what the heck's a polymath? Or you're all Googling what's a polymath right now. A polymath someone is yeah, a polymath is someone who's multidisciplined. So an example would be someone like Leonardo da Vinci, Ben Franklin, Elon Musk, Bill Gates would be one. So they're people who've mastered multiple disciplines. So what a polymath does, one, they love learning, they're super curious, but they can fill gaps that other people can't because we combine disciplines and connect dots where specialties usually are more silos and they see deep, really, really deep. A polymath can see very wide and often deep. So there's that saying, jack of all trades, master of none. Well, that's because that's super convenient for people to just stop there. But the rest of the saying actually is, often a master. Sorry, what is the last of that say again, George?
But often better than a master of one.
Yeah, that often better than a master of one. So as a polymath, I think, and
you
also
can use go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say most polymaths that I've met are on the ADHD spectrum. And so we're going to see a lot of diagnosis, like my friend Philip up here with the purple around him. He talks about dyslexia, and ADHD. And then we're talking there's a lot of talk about neurodiversity now. And so I truly believe that all these diagnoses are actually polymaths, and it's not necessarily, there is some medical to it too, and I'm not going to go into the medical, I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to say that if you've been diagnosed with ADHD or you're on the ADHD spectrum or you're not neurodiverse or dyslexia, there's very likely you're a polymath. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, sorry if I can speak as an ex-psychologist. The last D in ADHD or ADD is disorder. And it is sometimes a disorder. I'm not negating it. However, it is often a misdiagnosis. And it is not a disorder, it's a superpower. So a lot of people who are supposedly ADHD actually have superpowers of concentration. They just concentrate on different things in a serial manner. They'll do one thing for an hour and then do something completely different for the next hour and something completely different for the next hour. And it all adds up to a panoply or a diversity of skills that isn't yet polymathy, but what happens to the polymath is they use the problem-solving skills in one field, which are different from the other fields. They use them across fields. So the way engineers, for instance, Leonardo da Vinci was an engineer. The way engineers solve problems is not the same way as the way artists solve problems, which is not the same way as doctors solve problems or anatomists. He wasn't a doctor, but he did a lot of dissections of people, and on and on and on. He had many different fields, but he used the skills in one field to solve problems in the other field. And in this age of specialization, which is wonderful, the polymath is needed to integrate the different fields because the specialists are in their own field with their nose to the grindstone. And frankly, often they can't talk to each other. They don't know how to talk to each other.
So George, let's bring that back to consistency here.
Right.
Because with consistency, it is hard as a polymath because we're a little bit of the shiny rock or something shiny over there.
Bright kind of shiny object, yeah.
Shiny object, yeah. So when I work with polymaths, something that I teach is how to hijack or lean into your hyper focus. So these are some things that I do. So I learned this when I did my master's a couple years ago. I had some brain trauma and I had a really hard time concentrating, and I actually had to close my tax practice, and I literally was brain mush for about 6 years, which is really hard because I used to have large parts of tax code memorized. And so when I was doing my master's, I had a very hard time concentrating. So I learned this hack and it works super well. I tell it to all kinds of people who have ADHD or attention deficit, any type of attention issues. Is what I did is I ended up going to Costco and I bought these noise canceling earbuds. Now you can use any earbuds or any noise canceling for this to try it out. And when I need to concentrate, I will put those noise canceling, no music. Now, some of you could use music I don't recommend worded music because your brain has to process those words. And when people use worded music, they're actually controlling your mind. Like I actually rarely listen to worded music, to be honest, very, very rarely. And when I do, it's very intentional. I'm trying to amplify or be creative in a specific space, and I will use music intentionally. So anyway, I put noise canceling in the silence, and it's like warp speed. I don't know how many of you know like Star Wars, but my brain will go into like major hyper focus, and I can freaking work my ass off like for like an hour straight and just get some serious stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And
by the way, for Sherry, who's a world-class pianist, who's one of the speakers at the moment, I use the Chopin nocturnes and the Schubert impromptus. Just for Sherry. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And so for consistency, I just know that in the mornings I work better. So I'll put my headphones in, and then in the afternoons, I will like try to do other type of work that doesn't require that hyper focus. The other thing that I do is if I had to work really, really hard in the morning, I will actually schedule some rest time in the afternoon, because this is the thing with ADHDs. You work so hard and you hyper focus so deeply that you actually in a 4-hour period probably done 8 to 10 hours of work of a normal person, and then you wonder why you can't work for 4 more hours in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to know that you are doing way more work in a shorter period of time than most people, and so it's okay for you to rest, and you need to rest. And actually, I was working with an entrepreneur who, and I'm not joking, this actually happened to him. He was talking to me, and he kept telling me he was ADHD like 6 times in the call. And then he told me he lost his marriage over it because he couldn't focus and was lazy. And I said to him, and I said, he was a computer programmer and into tech. And I said, so when you have a major tech project, how many days in a row do you work? And he's like, well, like 5 or 6. I'm like, do you sleep? He's like, barely at all. I just like literally just go at it for 5 or 6 days straight. And then I said, dude, you're not lazy. You're just recovering. Right. It takes you a week or a week and a half to recover from working 6, 7 days at hyper speed. You need to recover. That is not laziness. What you need to learn is regulation. You need to learn how to take more breaks in between or to just build in those breaks. So what I do is I build in rest breaks. When I know I'm going to be working super hard for 2 days, I will build in a day of no work because I know that I have to recover. So you can hijack your own system to work for you. And that's how I do consistency. I don't know if that's helpful for you, Mary, at all.
Yes. Thank you. It was a great answer, and I got a lot of points from it. Thank you.
But follow your passions. Follow the thing that is so exciting to you that you would do it for free anyway.
Yes.
If you can and I have spent my life doing jobs that I would have done for free. And I really can honestly say I've barely ever done a day of work in my life. It's an old cliche, I know, but it really, really, really is true. You can't necessarily do it at the start of your career, but you can maneuver yourself pretty quickly into a place where you are doing what you absolutely love to do. You can't wait to get out of bed in the morning. You can't wait to get showered and dressed and get into that work. And you would do it from morning till night if you could, but you can't sustain it. And you want to have relationships, and you don't want your relationships to fall apart. So you have to attend to the rest of your life. But this whole idea of motivation, getting yourself to do stuff, it's all nonsense. You don't need motivation if you have passion. What you need to do is develop your passion.
That's right. I was going to say, George, that in the beginning of any, business endeavor, it's going to take a while for it to, like make financial returns. And if it is an activity that you would do anyway, even if you never got paid for it, then you're not sitting there thinking, oh, I'm putting so many hours in, and not making any money, because you love doing it. Not to mention that it doesn't feel like work, So even though it might take a while for a person to find what that thing is that they love doing, that they would do anyway, even if they never got paid for it, it's worth doing because it would mean that you have a career where you are working a ton, and because you love it, you do your best work. But it doesn't feel like work, and it actually can feel like play. I would have said this is not possible a few years ago, but of course it's possible, and it just takes a person's introspective reflection to figure out what direction that is and to move in that direction.
Yep, Dr. M, you made me think of a saying that I heard somebody say. Forgive the vulgarity, but you can't stop a man with a bug up his ass and a smile on his face.
Exactly. Yes.
You just can't.
Exactly. And the question that came from Polymath, those of us who are multidisciplinary, there's a couple ways to be a polymath. One is you can do them concurrently, which means at the same time you're doing, 2 or 3 masteries at a time. So right now I run 2 companies. Well, actually I run 3 projects. I run a polymath community, I run an innovation company, and I also co-run a commercial farm. So that's multiple masteries or disciplines that are completely unrelated at the same time. But you also can do them consecutively, which means that you can master one thing. So you could become a teacher, and then later become a musician, and then later become a marketer, let's just say, like, or copywriter. So you could have 3 professions, but you all at one time, and then you still become you're still a polymath by the time you hit your 3rd one. So there's multiple ways.
Right. And often you can learn them all at the same time because one serves as a break from the other. I remember as I started my first company, I was also taking lessons from Tony Slidini, who was one of the greatest magicians of the 20th century, to become a magician. And I was taking violin lessons, and I was attending private lessons and seminars with Chaim Ganat, who is one of the great child psychologists, all at the same time. Exactly. And going for my PhD studies, by the way, at the same time as well.
Okay, so thanks for that. So we talked lots about polymaths, but we want to focus on business advice because a lot of you came in to get business advice. So for anyone who just dropped in the room now, I am just how many away from 10K followers, Dr. M?
6 followers.
Everybody, I will take a look at your number in a second, Samantha. But this is the purpose of this space. Samantha is full of gems of all sorts. She has sat down with me where over just 4 or 5 minutes she's
5 away.
She shared with, if you have any questions, remotely any questions, Samantha is the kind of person that just spontaneously can pull very, very useful, accelerating things in whatever it is that you're doing, just like that, just by starting to speak. So
and if you're not following her,
please follow her. Yes, that is the purpose of this space.
There's such a great cheerleading squad up here.
You are 5 away.
5 away. Oh my gosh, we're so there.
Who's going to be the lucky one to do it?
Someone's going to get a $25 gift card to Starbucks after I hit 10K followers. So that's
Samantha, they all want to be the 10,000. So
they're going to hold back. They're going to hold. Don't hold back.
Make it, guys. Just to follow.
Is somebody who I will take. We'll try to draw it from randomly from someone, because I think I was 20 away when I started. So I will take it randomly from someone who follows me up from 20 away to 20 above. So in that 40th, I will bring somebody out of there. So if you're holding back from following and you're waiting to be the 10,000th one, it won't be the 10,000th one. It's going to be someone within that range. So yeah, I didn't even think of that, Dr. M. Thanks for that. He's Mr. Medical Man. Thank you for everything. All right. So we've got Pixie up here.
Yeah, Pixie's one of my favorite people. Hi, Pixie.
Hi, Pixie.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
I actually have a question this
Wonderful.
time, not just a statement.
Okay, well, we're going for questions
cool.
today anyway. It is AMA.
Yes, and I love jumping into there. You guys have no idea how much like value I'm getting out of this space, and I'm not even speaking in the space. So my question is that podcasting, what has been such an interesting develop in my life, and public speaking has been very exciting for me, and I've loved like this growth process in the last year and a half. And my question is, because I'm not very good at business, is there a way to basically provide my services and be able just to help other people without I just not good at business, so I feel like I could just give
Wait. Stop saying that. Stop
it's
it.
true,
Stop
George.
it.
It really is.
But you're manifesting your own.
Stop
you're
it.
manifesting your own destiny by saying that.
Yes, absolutely. You got to stop that.
Okay, I don't want to say stop, because we got to say you got to start this, because we don't want to talk in the negative. Let's talk in the positive.
Pixie, and like a good way to state. Sorry, Samantha, just it'll be one sentence. Like when I have want to express that similar sentiment, it would a good way would be to say I'm not quite as good as I want to be yet, or something like that.
Because you're fantastic.
I'm on my way to mastering it. This is something I'm mastering and learning right now, and this is something I'm on my way there. Soon I will be able to do this. Those are all things you can say. So definitely, and it's a true story. You are we're not to just totally give you a lecture, but for anybody in the room. By the way, we know Pixie really well, so we know we can say these things very directly to her.
Right.
We have a relationship with her. For everyone in the room who thinks we're maybe being a bit too direct with Pixie, we promise you we're super good friends, and she knows we love her.
Good point. Yes.
So I just want to say that I often use the word yet at the end of something I'm learning. I'm not, I'm not good at this yet, if I'm going to say it in the negative, but I put the yet on there because it implies that it's coming and it's going to be soon. And whenever
Samantha, you just hit 10,000. I got interrupted.
Oh, I did.
You did.
Nice.
You just hit it.
I got a screenshot it quick. No one follow me.
You did. You
gotta get a picture. Quick, get a picture.
It doesn't
We'll take up where we were. So congratulations, everybody. Give her some emojis. If you've got a mic, unmute your mic and cheer. Brava is the feminine form of bravo, in case you don't know it. So brava.
Cheers.
I want to screen record this.
Cheers.
All right, can you do it again? Because I just started screen recording. All right, so I just hit 10,000 followers, and all of you here celebrating.
Yeah. Samantha,
Great. Bravo.
Bravo.
Yes, look at all of you celebrating a 10,000K followers. This is very exciting. I didn't think I'd be the kind of person to do this sort of thing, but I've got to have fun sometimes. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for all being here with me. I feel like this is our fireworks show, and oh my gosh, and Hatham sent me a DM because Safia sent a message in her WhatsApp asking people to come on over and help me hit 10,000 followers. And isn't that amazing? What a community we have here. So thank you so much, everyone. All right, that was
Samantha. I think that's quite possibly the biggest milestone follower number wise, I feel like. So congrats.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And I got to watch it. Someone said just go to bed and you could see it in the morning, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I want to be able to see.
Samantha, next stop is 1 million.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that would be awesome. So thank you, everyone. I got to hit my thing here. So we'll go back to the question that was being asked earlier. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. So excited. Thank you, everyone. So, oh yeah, Pixie. Using the yet at the end is very powerful. So any of you who have a business or life, something that you're coming to, whenever you put something in the stone, I can't do this, I'm not doing this, or this isn't happening, and your brain will not allow you to lie to itself. It's called cognitive dissonance is the actual term.
Right.
And so you cannot, your body is wired to not prove yourself wrong. So when you tell yourself something, if it's negative, your body will not let you prove it, will not make it right. You have, so that's why I say yet. So I'm telling my brain, maybe this is true now. I may be acknowledging it because I don't want to not acknowledge that I'm not good at something yet. But I always say yet, because what I'm telling my brain is I'm open to improvement. I'm open to mastering this. And I'm letting the people know around me that this is a process I'm working towards. So I do this with like the simplest things. Like when my kids were little and they'd say, Mom, I don't like mushrooms, I always made them say yet at the end. Because if they said that 100 times, eventually they're just going to say, I don't like mushrooms, and they won't actually change their mind when their taste buds change. And so this is true of business. It's true of anything that you encounter. So saying yet is very, very, very powerful. But it's even more powerful to say, I'm on my way to learning this. So going back to your question about business, Pixie, so I wanted to talk about mindset, because business is a lot about mindset. And I struggle with this too sometimes when I'm in a new industry. Like if all of you were coming to me and you were going to ask me to do your Canadian tax return, heck, I wouldn't think 2 seconds about the fact that I'm one of the best in the country at it. Like I'd be like, okay, I can do that, no problem. Have it done up. However, if it's a different industry, I wouldn't have that kind of confidence. Now, you've been podcasting for a long time. So here's a few things that I'd like to see you do, Pixie, that I think will really help you with your confidence, because the money part will come if you boost your confidence. I would challenge you, and my friend Steven's in the room who's been trying to get me to do this. So if he's listening, he can DM me and say, I told you so, Samantha. But Pixie, what I would recommend for you to do is by the end of the week, go to get 10 testimonials where people are telling you how much you know about the podcast industry. Get those testimonials. And then when you use those testimonials, they're going to be twofold, well, even morefold. They're going to give you a lot of confidence, but they're also going to serve you to be able to present those to someone when you're working with helping them out with creating a podcast. The other thing that I want you to do is look, you've probably already done this, but go and see somebody who's doing what you want to do really well and mirror them. You don't have to necessarily copy them perfectly, but mirror them in your reflection. So go and see what they're doing, pick out what you know you're going to be good at, and then mirror it. You don't have to stick to it forever. Just do it for a while and then adjust it based on what suits you and what suits the clientele that you have. So that will be really helpful, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are already people doing this. So I'm sure you already know some people who are doing it well, and don't feel bad about copying them, because it's not plagiarism. I promise you they copied somebody else. So just go to them, just go there, take their model, don't reinvent it. And then after you've done it for a while, then make your adjustments. Would that be helpful for you, Pixie?
I'm going to give it a shot and see how it goes. But yeah, I haven't done it yet, but
Yeah,
I'm going to give it a try.
Pixie, do you want to make money from the podcasts themselves or from advising people about how to do podcasts?
Probably advising people. I'm not real sure yet what I want to do in career. So
okay, the reason I jumped all over you and asked you to stop saying you're not good at business is you are good at creating value, and that's all business is. So I don't want to lecture you, but I just want to point this out. I think you know this already. All you need to look. When I went to do my first sale, it was at Pfizer, to sell them a big seminar program. I was told, don't try to sell them anything. You're a psychologist. Just go and help them make the best possible decision, because we know that our program that we're advising them is the best possible decision. So just help them make a better decision. So I went there. I made $1 million sale. First sale I ever tried to make. So you know a lot more about business than you think you know. You know how to, basically, you know how to create value. You create value, the money will come. The money is an almost accidental byproduct. Yes, you do have to pay a little more attention to money and finance and all that, but it's a consequence. It's a byproduct of value. Taking simple raw materials, knowledge that you have in your head already, and helping people apply it to their situation. Pixie, you can do that in your sleep.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they will
Pixie,
pay you a lot of money to do it, and you love doing it. I mean, it's almost cheating. It's almost a fraud. They're going to give you huge amounts of money for doing this thing you love to do and you can do in your sleep, and it's effortless for you, because money's not about effort. That was Karl Marx said that. The labor theory of value. It's nonsense. It is about creating value. You know how to do it. Go out and do it.
Yeah, the other thing I want to add to you specifically, Pixie, first before I add this to you, anyone who wants to come up in the room, you've literally got some of the top minds. George is extremely accomplished in multiple realms. He's done marketing for some of the biggest companies in the world, actually. I'm a tax expert. I've got the finance. Serial entrepreneur. I run quite a few companies. And when people ask us questions, sometimes they pay us a lot of money. So you are literally getting like I'm 10 consultants in one, George is like 20 consultants in one, Dr. M's like 5 or 6 or maybe even more. So come on up, ask a question. We speak lots of languages. I'm not talking about like French or Spanish or all those, but I'm talking like industry language. So come on up. We're going to run the space a bit longer. I hit 10K. We'll go a little longer since people are asking questions. And just before I address Pixie, if you
yeah.
If you have a request to come up and you don't have a bio or a picture, we just won't let you come up to the stage, because just to respect the space, we want to make sure that these are legitimate accounts, and maybe yours is legitimate, but we're being very vulnerable with you and offering some authenticity, and so we expect authenticity in return. So if you want to come up to the stage and you want to add a profile picture and you have a bio, we'd be happy to have you come up.
So, and I got your DM about not being able to make me co-host.
Yeah, there's something
that's
weird.
Really weird.
Techie. I think it's
weird.
because
okay, no problem.
Yeah, I think it's because I was going to make Philip co-host, and so then he denied it, but then it keeps saying I have 2 already, so I don't know what's going on.
Okay, no problem.
So Pixie, the other thing that I wanted to say is, because when the thing about a polymath is you are multidisciplinary, and so you can offer your services at a higher premium because of that. So in your particular case, because you run, I'm going to use the word spicy. We're going to keep this Disney in here. I love Indra Bartona's phrase, so we're going to use it. We're keeping Disney, the phrase, right. We're keeping the language Disney in here. But you offer a spicy element to your, I'm going to use spicy because you use that word a lot, to podcasting. And I know that there's new podcasters who are wondering how to navigate that world. How much is too much without it being, R-rated or 18 plus? How do you handle yourself online? Especially for you as a female, how do you fend off the males that are inappropriately DMing you? And I know that you're getting this because of your industry. And so I feel like people who are interested in that are going to want to speak to someone who's navigated it and navigated as well as you. I have been watching you for almost a year, and I have rarely seen anyone navigate and be on that line without totally crossing the too far, but while staying authentic.
Yep.
And you have a gift in it. And I'm not just saying this I'm like honestly telling you, I've been watching you, and I see once in a while, I probably see something that would be way further than I would go. But I do get that we kind of like try where that line is and we push it either way. So I would recommend that you work with people or put yourself out with somebody who's also trying to figure that out. Because I think people will pay a lot of money to have someone who will be able to speak that language and in that space that very few other people would. I would never go into that space. I just wouldn't be comfortable with it. But if I did, I definitely would want to talk about it with somebody who's done it well and as well as you. And if you need a testimony from me to say that I've seen you do it and walk that very narrow road about what's appropriate and what's not, and I guess everyone has a different level of that, I'm pretty sure you could get a bunch of them. So hopefully that's helpful.
May I add a couple of words here? Pixie, I've heard you in a few of your spaces where you're giving podcasting tips and advice, and that is totally at professional consulting level. So when you say that, if you say when you say you're not good at business, I just don't believe you. I just want to reiterate what George said, which is that what business is value. So you are providing that value. and the rest is really peripheral to the main thing. Because if you couldn't deliver that value, then the best marketing in the world would only go as far as your first customers, from which you couldn't get realistic actual testimonials, and it just would be a vain endeavor. So yes, you are totally on your way, and that yet is going to be very in short time changing.
Sweet. I'll let Pixie, I'll give you an opportunity
Exactly.
to respond, and then after that, we'll go with Jesse.
Thank you, guys. It's very nice to hear.
Sounding a little emotional there.
Yeah. We haven't even started. I mean, it's also extraordinarily articulate,
Yeah.
even though she may be not particularly articulate at the moment because she may be overwhelmed a little bit, but extraordinarily articulate. She jumped up once in a space I was running and co-hosted with me. It was just amazingly wonderful. It was the first time I met her. Who is this girl? I never knew who she was even, and she jumped up, volunteered, helped me out. It was just amazing, and it asked help. So you got a lot going for you. Don't ever sell yourself short, please.
That value is what attracts people to you, Pixie. I mean, I've heard you multiple times just talk about how quickly you've grown your account. I mean, you're very much organically attracting people, and so there is that is very much real, and it's very much there. And if it wasn't there, you wouldn't really be growing as quickly as you are. I mean, your account short time with what you're doing. It has grown so quickly. So that alone, just the organic account growth, because I know it's organic, that alone means a ton in terms of, are you delivering what you want to do and what you promise to deliver?
There we go. All right, Pixie. So you've got tons of encouragement, and you've got an assignment. Get your 10 testimonies. And we'll wait to hear from you later. So great panel. Thanks, everyone. So next up, if anyone wants to tweet this out, we'd love to have you tweet out, invite people to the room. Maybe I'll stay. If any of my hosts or co-hosts need to go, because I know it's on Eastern time, you're past midnight. I'm on Mountain time, so it's 10:41 p.m. So I will stay up to 20 minutes as long as we're having good questions coming up. I'll stay up to 20 minutes more. So come on up and ask a question related to a business or a side hustle, Q&A, any industry. I promise you, it's very likely someone in the room can help you out right now and get you unstuck. So, and I'm not joking. I've actually literally had calls with people where they've made $35,000 in a 24-hour period after advice I gave them just by listening to them and giving them advice. So please come on up and ask a question if you want to be that person. I can't guarantee you 35,000. It just depends. And she was Canadian, so I know the Canadian system a little better, and I know some different things that are available here.
34K.
Yeah, okay. Well, I did get a guy $90,000 once, but that was a while ago. Jesse, you're up. Let's see what we can do for you. What question do you have for us today?
How's it going, folks? Thanks for having me up. I'll try to stay brief just so as many other people can get a question up as possible. But I've got a bunch of ventures that I'm looking into getting into, but primarily as a side hustle, one that's been really intriguing me a lot and it's been on my headspace a lot, and I'd like to close the process and get it done kind of thing, is exactly that, is a podcast. I've got an editor lined up. It's somebody who's got a lot of experience doing longer form ones than what I'm planning. I want to do something shorter. Shorter air quotes, you know what I mean? Like half an hour, 45 kind of thing. And I know that you should have a few kind of preloaded to go, so that way you can kind of, release them gradually, even though, you'll state your schedule, but you'll have a couple ready to go even as you're kind of still going. But that's all great. That's all well and good. That's all production. What I don't know anything about is monetization, any of that side whatsoever. So any advice on that field on how to make it generate money would be awesome. Because I've got no problem investing time. I've got no problem investing thought. Unfortunately, it's such an intriguing concept that I don't have a choice. So I'd love to just deal with it and be like, all right, fine, podcast.
Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast, some more about your podcast, please?
So I want it to be like an NPR style satirical interview series, effectively called Don't Build a Time Machine. And I say satirical because along the lines of stuff like War of the Worlds and or Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's basically just spec fiction, but aimed to be funny and entertaining and enjoyable and listenable. And so the concept would essentially be having different people up, as interviews, essentially, to either play a part or a fake bit or whatever have you that they might have in mind, or to play through or enact or talk through a scenario that they might have in mind where time travel might go awful, or like that's basically the point of it, is a series of cautionary tales against building time machines.
All right, so it's not an industry I know a ton about, but I do have a few more questions for you to dig a little deeper.
That's okay. I know tons about the time travel industry. I'm just looking about the podcast industry.
Yeah, well, I realize that, but what I'm trying to, my questions have, totally I have a place I'm going. I just need to ask more questions to get there. So, what, if you were to sell something that you know about, so whether it's a course or how to do something that's related to your podcast, what could that be?
Unfortunately, my understanding of academics is that mostly you have to have those fancy little pieces of paper that say that you can teach the thing in order to teach the thing successfully.
Bullshit. Okay, stop. No, you don't need any of that. No, just because I have degrees, but honestly, some of the best teachers don't have degrees. Sometimes education just messes you up even more. So, and by the way, I'm very educated. I have a master's, but I will tell you that some of the most brilliant people. FYI, Leonardo da Vinci, I'm not joking, by the way, had very little schooling and he could barely do math. He couldn't even do he couldn't do some of the basic math because he wasn't actually taught in school. Most of his learning was self-taught. So the fact that you don't have a degree doesn't matter. And to be honest, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. Everyone in this group, I get DMs from people in the tech industry because I sometimes do consulting in tech, or I go on Twitter Spaces and help in tech. And even though I don't speak tech, or I don't actually code or anything like that, and people will say to me, I'm looking for someone to fill this position, and they say to me, we don't care about their education, we just want to test their knowledge. And that is becoming more and more and more common, and it's becoming extremely common for companies to intentionally not take people who are overly educated because it's hard to train them. So once their brains are set a certain way to process information or perform a certain way, it's really hard to untrain that, and they don't want that. So it can be to your advantage. All you have to do is show your authority and that you know what the heck you're talking about, and that's all that matters. So now that I said that, and I scolded you, please tell me.
Never objection to being scolded by a woman, but by all means.
Okay. All right. So now that I've said that, for everyone in the room, as long as you know your stuff or you're on your way to there, that's all you need. And you be surprised if you go to a place that says you need a degree. So side note before I get back to you, just because I want to bring this up because of the resume, I'm on a board of a bank, and we were looking for a new bank manager at one of our branches. And I had a guy in mind that I know doesn't have the right degree that they were asking for, but he would have been perfect for the position, honestly, because I know him back. He's run a bunch of companies, and the guy is only has a high school. Actually, he doesn't have university or anything. And so what he said to me, well, I don't think I can apply for this job. And I'm like, how much self-learning have you done? He's like, are you kidding? I live on Udemy, and I live on YouTube, and I live on all this stuff. And I said, why don't you add it all up? And so what he did is he added up all his hours, and he took his concentrations, and he actually submitted a resume and wrote, I have a master's equivalent in an MBA. And he listed out all the hours that he had spent in self-development. And they were honestly considering him. It was right before COVID, unfortunately. So COVID happened literally the week after he submitted his resume, and they decided not to hire anyone over COVID because they were just dealing with all the COVID crap. So it's unfortunate, but they were actually considering him even though he didn't have the degree, simply because he showed that he had an equivalency. So that's what I'm telling you. We live in a new world. Those degrees don't matter as much as they used to.
Samantha, Winkeye here has been DMing with me. He has a Polymath question. Is that okay?
So I will go back to Jesse here for a bit, and then we'll come back to.
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry.
Sorry, Jesse. I was going on a little bit of a confidence building for you. So what?
Don't get me wrong. I appreciate a good anecdote, so no apologies needed.
So the question I asked you again. So if you were to teach something or offer a course or some mastery or knowledge, what would that be that people would pay you for?
I genuinely wouldn't know where to start. I actually had to plot out and try to figure out which set of degree I would do in what order in order to be most efficient with how I figure out the next 8 to 10 years of my life. So I guess physics would be a good place to start. Mathematics. I just bought my first scalpel in order to get more handy with that. Looking into surgery. Robotics. Yeah, I don't know where to start.
You should connect with Dr. M. He's actually in robotics too. So
no way. This whole fucking time.
Seriously. So you two should chat up in the DMs. So the reason why I was asking about this is because to monetize your podcast, especially early on, is very, very hard. It's hard to sponsor, especially when you don't have a lot of listeners. What a lot of people are using their podcast for right now that is monetization is as a funnel, essentially. So as a funnel to a community. So that's something you could do. So let's just say you wanted to build a community of people who love that particular fantasy world that you're talking about. And so you charge X amount of dollars and they're part of a Telegram group or a Discord group. So you talk about it in your podcast and then you can send them to this community. Or you can talk about a course that you're offering that's related, because you have to remember this is the audience that you have. So you can plug that in your podcast. When you post it, when you post the podcast on a web page, you can put a link there to your product that you want to sell. That's how you're going to make your money. The podcast itself, very, very, very hard to make money until way later on, unless you get some sort of partnership or something with a big company or somebody with some big clout. But your money is going to be on funneling them to something else that you're selling them. But it needs to be related, because that audience isn't going to buy something on physics if they're not about physics, if your podcast isn't about physics. Does that make sense?
No, for sure. And that's the cool thing about time travels. It can be about literally fucking anything. So that's great.
Yeah, so you could sell experiences, time travel experiences, or you can brainstorm that a little bit. Get some people that you think are very creative, not your mom and your dad. I'm just making a joke, cheeky. But maybe they are creative, and maybe they're like, and my kids actually do ask me business advice, but normally I don't tell people to ask their parents business advice unless they actually are good at business. But I definitely get some people together that are creative and innovative and know your talents and are good supporters of you and help you come up with ideas of products that you could sell, whether it's passively or actively, that your podcast listeners would be interested in, and then add that. So you don't push it during your podcast a lot. It's a supplement. They work together.
Makes sense. Yeah, honestly, that's been very much on my mind for a long time for exactly that reason. Is holy shit, I need to get out of this buttfuck nowhere town and get to somewhere surrounded by smart people and talk. That's been my goal for some time. Trying to figure out where the hell to go to has been the problem.
Yeah, well, there's some advice for some help for quite a few people on Twitter that are good with podcasts. There's a gal,
Pixie right here.
Yeah, Pixie. Yeah, Pixie's also one of them. Now her niche is quite different, but she could get you started. Ideally, I would work with somebody in that niche, because I've hired contractors before. So for example, I built a volunteer platform, and the guys that I got to do the wireframe prototype, I was like, oh, it doesn't matter as long as they know how to do a wireframe prototype. Well, the guys that I hired actually do bank prototypes, and it was so hard for me to communicate what I was trying to do, because they had no freaking clue what I was talking about, even though they did wireframe prototypes.
Different, totally different perspectives of the same application. Been there.
They did a good job at the end of the day, but it took an extra 2 months to get there than if I would have hired people who knew the language and the ideas of what I was thinking about. It was just so much work on my part to try to communicate. I had to just it was a full-time job just communicating with them, and elaborating and sending them looms and examples. It was just so much work. So if I was starting out, I don't know that I would go to somebody who's in a completely different niche, even if they can do podcasting. So
that makes sense.
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the information. I'm gonna mull that over. Thank you so much for the time.
You're welcome. We've got 40 people here. I'm getting some really
One
fun.
other thing, H.G. Wells did not have any kind of degree in time travel or physics or anything like that.
That's true. That's the thing about spec fiction. Yeah, that's the thing about spec fiction is you can be anybody and you can write great stuff.
Yeah.
But the problem for me is my process is stupid, which is a word I don't like using, but it's circuitous and convoluted, and it is very involved, and it's not something I can really do while trying to figure out my life at the same time, unfortunately. So I'm
Justin,
getting
I'd
there.
like to make a suggestion for you, if that's okay. Would that be okay if I give you a suggestion about something?
How dare you? I came to you for advice, and now you're going to give me some? I don't think
Yeah,
so.
well, I'm trying to be gentle and soften up a little bit. You have an amazing vocabulary.
Mhm.
However, when you're podcasting, I would, if you're going to use, if you decide to continue to use that vocabulary, make sure that you're putting like a simpler grade 5 or grade 6 level next to it so that people are on board and they know what you're saying, because they're going to be lost trying to figure out the words you're using. Especially in audio when they can't see you or pick up any of your visual cues. So, and they're not words
Believe
that
me,
often.
masking is going to be in full effect, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because, I don't believe that neurodivergent people should have to do it per se.
Yeah.
But I'm fully aware that this guy, who's just way more chill, is going to get a lot more people listening to his podcast than the other guy. So it's totally fine.
If you have a lot of listeners and they've been there a while, you can start to use those words more often. However, at the very beginning, when you're trying to get people used to the language, so like when I did my master's and we use these fancy words, if I ever want to, I rarely use these fancy words actually. Even in tax, I rarely use fancy tax words with my clients. That's why they liked me, because I just spoke in regular words. But if I did use them, I would always add the simple term next to it so that they never feel lost and they don't feel dumb, because your listener might feel dumb if they don't know the words you're using. So if you want to continue to use them, but always use the layman, like I'm going to use layman's words, but like the simpler words, and then you can continue, you can build up using those fancier words later, as your audience builds and they get used to that vocabulary. Because it makes you special. Like I've hardly ever heard, like it's been a while since I've heard anyone articulate as well as you have in some ways. So I think it's a something you don't want to hide, but you also want to make sure that you bring your listeners with you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm having a hard time balancing it. I definitely have a propensity for verbosity and a inclination towards specificity that is not exactly, an inclination for most, for sure. But
hilarious. All right. Well, thank you, Jesse, for being on today. We appreciate your humor and the fact that you were just being super cheeky at the end there. I like that too. So I like that was fun. So Dr. M. Saman, you said that someone was DMing you asking you some questions in the background there.
Oh, yeah. So, the Mr. Winkeye here, I just DM'd him to ask him, basically to try to decipher if they are a troll or not, and it doesn't seem so. So I was just telling you that let's hear them out. They have a polymathy question, and I was going to ask you if that's okay for you.
Oh, for sure. Shoot. I'm happy he did that, because you usually don't let anyone come up that doesn't have a profile picture. So you've got the softie in the room. I can be a softie too.
Hi here. This is
Hi.
Mohan. Okay, I have a question on this polymath. I mean, I was just introduced to this concept today, so I genuinely got curious on it. The question is like you said, like polymath is something like inherent to a person, like it should be coming in by inborn trait or something, or is it something which we can develop over years through practice, or is there any technique to get into it? And the follow-up on further would be like, if it is possible for us to practice that, is it at early stages going to be erroneous, like it will have some error, uh, something which we make mistakes in doing polymath, and we get into trouble, like if we try to do juggle around stuff and all those things. So just like to understand more on polymath journey.
Okay. Well, first of all, if you're asking all these questions and the way you ask them, it's probably you are a polymath. And if any in the room is an entrepreneur, more than likely you are a polymath. To be an entrepreneur, you need to have a mastery of many fields. So as soon as someone tells me they're an entrepreneur, even a business owner, a lot of business owners are polymathic. Like they have to do accounting, they have to be able to do marketing, they have to be able to do HR. What I call these modern polymaths in the old, in Leonardo da Vinci's time, they wouldn't have had like an HR person or a social media strategist. Like there just weren't terms or disciplines that were created back then. But as a modern polymath, these would all qualify. I'll ask you some questions actually about yourself. Can you tell me a little bit about your curiosities and things that you have mastered? Like what are let's go with 3 to keep it at 3. So tell me 3 things that you were super curious about and you pursued and then just learned them very, very well, became good at them.
Okay, so generally, what I would say is like oftentimes I don't take things straight. I mean, like generally, if there's a situation and you need to come up with some solution, most people would take a generic path or a most trusted path, which often people will tend to take. But I always think the opposite direction. I always put my mind in a direction. What if it is not this way? I mean, that's how I start. Okay, and always I go from there. My thought process starts by asking what if, and then I start thinking in the direction. That's one of the things I do as my trait. And always I would like to stand out of the crowd. I mean, that's something I would always try to
I think
do.
what I think what
Mhm.
Samantha's asking is, are there some different fields? So what you're describing here is lateral thinking or
Mhm.
creative thinking,
Okay,
but
you're asking about multiple fields in
are there
which. Okay.
multiple fields? Yes.
What are your
So you don't have to
expertise?
decide whether you're a polymath or not
Mhm.
at this point, but you're
Mhm.
just trying to get an idea of what are the different fields or disciplines that you have some accomplishment in.
All right. All right. I'm very good at sports in generic, but by profession I'm an IT professional, software engineer, which I'm
Huh?
very good at, and I develop software for leading companies here in US, and I am very good at sports, and I'm very good at mentorship, mentoring people and
Hmm.
things which I know. And sometimes if I have to do a learning, then I have to do mentoring on that. Even I would be able to do that in short time. So these are some of the things which I can think on top of my mind, which comes right away. But there could be something more. But these are some things which I can right away tell you.
So do
So
you
what do
do
you
go
go
ahead.
ahead?
Mhm.
What do you I want to get some clarity on what you're asking. Are you asking whether you are or are not a polymath, or do you want to
No, my
develop it
question is
more?
like this term
Yeah.
is new to me.
Yes.
First thing, yes, maybe I can decide whether I'm a polymath at a different discussion or something like that. But what I would like to understand is if I was not a polymath and if I have to start with acquiring that skill or that whatever it is, like a skill or a
It's not
feature.
see that's
It's
the
not a skill.
that's the problem. It's not a skill. It's a predisposition. It's a style. It's a
Right.
cognitive style essentially.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it is so it's not something that you aspire to or you don't. What you do is you follow your interests. You
Okay.
follow your curiosities. You
Hmm.
let wonder be your guide. They develop into intense interests. Now,
Right.
some people, this isn't good or bad, it's not a value judgment. Some
Mhm.
people end up getting very passionate and interested in one thing or one area. Um,
Right.
and they concentrate and they're called specialists. And
Right.
we admire these specialists. They are vital.
Mhm.
Um, and especially polymaths love specialists.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a lot of the specialists don't love or understand the polymaths. They don't
Mhm.
get it. But that's a different issue. But I wouldn't worry about are you a polymath or are you not a polymath? I would just worry about what does life have to offer? What are the wonderful things that that I could pursue that could lead you into an intense specialty with great depth and knowledge, or it could also it could lead you into intense specialty with several different hobbies. And it's not important whether you put the word polymath on it or not. It's important to understand that the polymath tends to use what he learns in one area, he or she learns in one area to problem solve in the other area. For instance, you were talking about kind of lateral thinking and creative thinking. Well, Einstein said that the reason he was so productive in physics is, famous quote, I think, is imagination is more important than knowledge. He said the thing he had was not higher IQ. He was not as high IQ as some of his colleagues, not more knowledge, but more imagination. He followed his curiosity more than other people. So he learned that in the arts, he learned that in other places, he applied it to physics. And the rest, of course, is history. Feynman was a similar kind of person, very multiply accomplished, and one thing fed the other things. So that's what I wouldn't worry about especially if you've just learned the phrase. Read Walter Isaacson's books. Walter Isaacson himself is a polymath. He has written books on Steve Jobs, the Wright brothers, Leonardo da Vinci, Steve Jobs. His specialty is polymaths. It's kind of funny. And you get more of an idea.
So I know that we talk about polymaths for a bit, but I'm getting some DMs about business, and since we have business in the top of the space, I just want to honor that, because for the people who came in wanting to get business advice, it's important as a Twitter space host to make sure to try to stay on topic.
Good point.
Right.
So,
thanks, Samantha, and thanks, George. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking about polymaths, but we do run spaces specifically talking about polymaths. So follow George and Dr. M and myself, and you can set for notifications in spaces. And then when we're in spaces and we're running spaces about polymaths, then you can ask those questions in those spaces. But we were glad to add it here because business, in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to be, like, I would call pre-polymathic. Maybe you're not all the way there, but you're on your way there. And if you are starting a business, it's very likely that you are you have some polymath. You've got some polymath tendencies, because we generally are people who are going to break out of the boxes, not follow the norms, and so it was a relevant question. So thanks very much for coming up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I have a question that came in my DMs here. So if some of you can't come up or can't speak, you can DM myself or one of the I guess just Dr. M's a co-host, or George. I can't give him co-host tonight. It just won't work. So I got a question from someone in the space, and this is what she asked. Hi, Samantha. I'm Light, and I have a question. I'm a doctor, and I'm starting out in some ventures to create scents and perfumes. What creative and marketing tips do you have to generate good income? And I'd love to hear anything that the panel can offer for me. So with this particular question about scents and perfumes, I don't know if you can hear me in the DM. I know I see her down in the group there. If you could just tell me where you're at, where you live, what country you live in, that would be very helpful for me to help with giving you some insight, because I can give you more specific if I'm familiar with the country you're living in. So I'll just wait for her to DM. So just let us know what country you're in. So this works really well with marketing, is when you can find an influencer. So sometimes we think that an influencer has to be some, famous person with a big Instagram account or a celebrity, but that's not always true. You just need an influencer who has some influence over other people who would also buy your product. So if you can find somebody who is influential, so somebody who's got charisma, somebody that has authority, somebody who's a leader, somebody that people look to, if you go to that person and ask them to try your perfumes out and they really like them, you can ask them to give you a referral and recommend your perfume to other people. So you can start out with that original person, giving them a free samples, and I would recommend free samples for her. And then also you can do other free samples in those like little small cylinders that she could hand out if she's willing to do it. It depends on the person and what kind of perfumes you're doing. But to start, when you're starting out at the very, very beginning and you're just, you can't think big. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to get, I'm going to start big. I'm going to get some big influencer on Instagram. But you really need to just build up some testimonies and some feedback to begin with and just kind of get your bearings straight. And you might even find, honestly, that you don't love it. Let's just say you might like doing it as a hobby. So this is why, another reason why I say this. So when I took up photography for a period of time and I learned it pretty quickly. And next thing I know, people wanted to buy my photography. They wanted to hire me for photography. And so I was doing this for a period of time on top of my other two businesses. And I really love photography, but then when I was editing other people's photos all the time and staring at mug shots or, putting things together for their walls and not doing my own stuff, it actually just took the joy of the photography out. And I realized that I just love photography is a joy for me, and it took the joy away when I monetized it. So now I only do my photography as a hobby again. Once in a while, I will sell an image if somebody wants to buy, like I have this really famous picture of a bridge with the train crossing. It's extremely rare. It's lit up over a centennial and it'll never be done ever again. And so I have some businesses that want to buy it sometimes, but because I already have it sitting in a print shop and I literally just tell the print shop to ship it out, I will ship that one image out sometimes. But this is why I say when sometimes people have a hobby and a passion that they absolutely love and they want to make it a business, my recommendation is try it in a small way first before you quit your job, before you put a ton of money into it. Just find out if this is something that you want to keep as a hobby or this is something you really want to develop into a business. So that's my part on that. But
I think that's great advice.
Yeah, because you might end up finding out
it's a side hustle. Make it a side hustle for a while and see where you want to take it. It's fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've made the mistake, so I know exactly how this happens. It's funny, I was in a space this morning in an interview, and I was talking about credentials. Someone has said something about, wow, you're so accomplished, you've got all these accomplishments. And I'm like, oh, well, that's because my bio only has 160 characters. So imagine, if you will, that every time you see an accomplished person with a ton of accomplishments, so see their accomplishment, and then you see how we put that little comma beside it. Think of a comma as the failure, but they're usually bigger than a comma. So it's like accomplishment, failure, accomplishment, failure, accomplishment, failure. So we just don't put all our failures up there. I will tell you them if you ask me about them, but I'm not going to necessarily use my 160 characters up to write one of my failures out. And one of my failures was jumping in too quickly on a hobby and trying to make it a side hustle when in fact I just love doing it for fun. So maybe that's not the advice you wanted, but hopefully that's helpful for someone in the room. You haven't put your country in here, so I'm not sure what country you're coming in from. So I would start just small, get an influencer. And then the other thing is I have to put this out here just because I personally am extremely allergic to perfume. And so it's hard for me to give advice to grow perfume industries because I believe that perfume highly affects people's mental skills and that a lot of us are walking around in brain fog because of perfumes. So and there's becoming a big awareness about this. So with your perfumes, I would, you want to make sure that you're using something that doesn't cause brain fogs or headaches. Because if it does, you're gonna have a hard time selling those products just because people are getting a lot more conscious of how they feel. So that's just something I want to put out there. So hopefully these are helpful to you. You can DM me a reply back and see if there's anything else that you have a question for. So we said we're going to end the space, but man, when I start talking about business, I just get all hyper and I can't stop. I forgot how much I forgot how much I love talking about business. I don't talk about it all the time and then I forget how
It's funny how you and I both have been professional photographers, and I worked my way through school, through college as a professional photographer. Gave it up because I loved it too much, and kept it as a hobby. Same thing with magic. I'm a world-class magician, but I never did it professionally, except that I was a speaker. I was a public speaker, got $10,000 per speech, but I would always throw in a magic show that illustrated the customer decision process. So I used it, but I was never. So sometimes you can incorporate what you're doing into your present job or your area of concentration in a way that makes it incredibly more valuable. Because if they're going to get a $10,000, a lot of money to pay a keynote speaker, but if they're going to get somebody to do magic during their cocktail party, that's going to cost them another $10,000. I'll do it for free.
Oh my
I
gosh, George, you
love
just
doing
gave me
it.
an idea. So if I do a keynote speech, any of you out there, I'm available to do keynote speech. And I have done some keynotes, but the last keynote I did was on photography and how, and I did it, it was basically based on how photography teaches you business skills. And so I used the analogy of photography and zoom lenses and micro lenses. But you know what? If I was speaking at a summit or something, I could offer to teach some photography tips during the break. Because
Brilliant.
It's a separate breakout session. You do it. So a breakout session costs them a lot of money to get somebody good to do it, and they have to fill the slot. So you can say, I will do a workshop on the use of photography in business, or what photography teaches you in business, or you can make up a bunch of other things that are genuinely valuable. So I'm not just doing a magic show. I'm doing I can break down the customer decision process. And if I can get you to take the 6 of spades, if I can force you to take the 6 of spades in a way that you think is a free choice, then I can damn well sell your product. Think about that. And I would demonstrate to people that and I say, I know a lot about persuasion because I can fool the hell out of you, even though I've told you I'm a magician. I've told you that I'm going to fool you. I've told you if I hold one hand up, look at the other hand. All that stuff. You're trying to catch me, I will still fool the hell out of you. So if I know that much about it, let's use it in an honest way. This is deception with permission, of course. It's a deception for entertainment purposes. But let's do persuasion that's not deception, that's honest and straightforward. I can teach you how to do that with by the time I'm done with that pitch, they want to see a magic trick. They want to see if I know what I'm talking about. Bang, I've got the job. That's awesome. The point is to use what you've got in one thing to give you a complete, unique, and valuable, not just novelty, a unique thing you're offering that nobody else on the planet can offer. There's no other word of mouth marketing consultant that could do magic in the entire world. Believe me, I know.
There you go. You've got a magician in there. I just want to go back to, thanks very much, George, for that, because what he's saying gave me an idea. That's why I love these spaces. So the gal who was asking me about the perfumes, it's essential oils, and she is taking aromatherapy courses, and she's from Canada. So I'm from Canada, sweetie. So good for you. I'm glad for you to be able to, that this is essential oils that you're using. And so there's less regulations around that too, because my concern, the reason why I went to a country you were in also is because of regulations with perfumes and scents. But with aromatherapy, there's less regulations around that if you're creating blends. And so you can create blends. I honestly wouldn't go and spend a lot of time and money at fairs. A lot of people will go to these like fairs, and that is not a good way to make money out of this. There's everybody's doing it. And I have done fairs with photography and sewing. I was into sewing for a while and made like all these kind of magic bags and stuff out of the grain from the farm. And honestly, you spend so much time and energy and you put all this money into your stock, and then you sell like 5 things that barely covers the cost of your table. So that is not a good way to sell it. For you, because you're taking aromatherapy courses, you could easily pair your special blends with clients. So at first you could give your blends at a discounted rate for your aromatherapy clients or students or clients, I'll call them clients. And then from there, build that up. And so make sure though that you say that this is a one-time promotion. because people will continue to ask for that promotion. And the other thing that I see with startups is people do a family and friends discount. Oh my gosh. Every time I had a tax client that came in and they weren't making money, I'm like, let me guess, you have a family and friends discount. And they're like, how did you know? And I'm like, stop it right now. Tell them that your accountant said you are no longer allowed a friends and family discount. They'll pay you just to sit and chat with you anyway. So you need to make enough income. So if it's one thing if you're doing a promotion at the beginning to get some samples and some feedback, but you need to make sure that you're letting people know that this is a one-time promotion or a one-time gift to get some feedback or an exchange. I like the word exchange. This is an exchange for feedback. This is an exchange for testimony. But ideally, you should not be just giving it away. There should always be an exchange of something, because that way, when you charge full price next time, they're not going to be surprised. So, and you can also say that I'm offering it to you at this price in exchange for feedback or testimony. Then after that, the price is going to this, so that they know the expectations. This is a very, very common mistake I used to see a lot with people starting out, is just going low to get your name out, but then being stuck to it because people expected it to stay at that. So hopefully that's really helpful for you with your blends. And I would just give them fun names. So like give your blends some names that are memorable. So, I mean, that's why the cannabis industry does so well, because they have fun names. Like, right in Canada, it's legal, so I don't know where you all at, but I'm in Canada, and there's a cannabis shop. There's a cannabis shop every like practically 10 feet. I know that's a hyperbole or an exaggeration, but they're everywhere. And they have like the coolest, funnest names for, I know funnest isn't a word, but I'm using it anyway. But I just want to say that, like, if you can come up with some fun names and make them memorable, that will really help you with your sales as well. So, because people like to have fun.
Yeah. Also, if you, again, on this theme of combining things, there are not too many, if any, aromatherapists who are physicians. So you got to ask yourself, what can you do as a physician that you could bring to this whole thing, and it would combine and allow you to do something completely different that nobody else in the world can do. If you add hypnosis to that, which is not that difficult to learn, you might have another avenue. There are several other things you could add to it where you would be the only person in the world who can do that. So something to think about.
All right, so we've got a couple more questions, and then we're going to close the space, because I'll be like a zombie. I'm actually doing awesome.
It's getting really late in the East Coast there.
Yeah, if any of the speakers need to leave, just feel free to do that. For you guys, it's
too
like
much fun.
I know I'm on adrenaline now, but tomorrow I'll be walking around like a zombie. And actually, I have a podcast. I have somebody doing a podcast interview with me at 8:45, so I definitely need to be on my brain, because it's a recorded podcast, like video. So I need to be sharp tomorrow. So we'll just go on for a few more minutes. We have Evergreen with your hand up. If you've got a business question for us, we will help you out. And then shortly after, we will close the space. Oh, and then I'm going to announce the winner for the Starbucks card after Evergreen goes.
Greetings from Malawi. Thank you so much for your hosting. Always a pleasure listening to your minds. I listened very intently to what was being spoken about regarding the magician energy and how it can convince you. What I've noted is I'm in esports, which is video games, and I have mentioned this before to Madam Samantha. So what I have noticed as a global trend is a close linking with music as a means to garner that kind of attention, that kind of marketing. And creatives in the music industry can come up with those kind of names which have been mentioned, which are quite catchy, just because they're so close to that creativity. There is one individual, and this is to do with what was spoken about regarding a unique talent that you're the only one in the world. Personally, for me, there is one gentleman. He's called Harry Mack. So what he does is he basically rhymes using whatever he sees or whatever he interacts with. He's currently on YouTube, and he responds to people's comments, people's donations, and the words they write, and he just forms incredibly creative rhymes off of that. I used to be a rhymer. I still am very much a poet. And I dreamed of doing that myself. In fact, when I was I used economics terms, not necessarily business, but I used economics terms in a rhyme scheme. And he said, "Oh my goodness, wow, you have to go to Harvard."
Oh, we lost you.
Oops, what happened?
Yeah, audio's gone.
Yeah, I wonder if you're not close to a Wi-Fi source.
His mic is still open, it looks like, but
Yeah,
can't hear.
your mic just went dead. But
Or
that
he got a phone call.
that
Or
could
it
be.
might be got a phone call, right?
So you know something cool? Well, we're waiting for him to come back here. Something cool that happened during the space today. You know, earlier when someone asked me about a polymath and I was giving examples of so concurrent, which means happening at the same time simultaneously or consecutively, or like in one happens and then another one happens and another happens. And remember I gave that example. You could be like a teacher and then a musician and then turn into a copywriter. So Mary messaged me and she's like, I cannot believe this. She's like, your answer, first of all, your answer about polymath opened up a lot of different possibilities for me. She's the one who asked about consistency. She's like, you can't believe this, but she said, as a polymath cop, that it's surprising that I use the same illustrations that she was on the path for. So a copywriter, a teacher, and a pianist with business. So that's just amazing how everything just lines up, that those just out of all of the professions I could have mentioned, I just so happened to mention the three for her that I didn't even know. And she was asking about consistency, and I literally just spouted off three, just randomly came up with three professions, and they happened to be hers. So I thought I'd just share that, how cool that is.
Yeah, it's not hard to combine.
No, it
Two,
isn't.
three, four, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and you're all of a sudden the only person in the world who can do that. Now it has to be of value. The combination has to be of value, but it's not that hard. Just think about it, do some work with yourself, and you let your imagination run. And some of the ideas might be ridiculous. Don't throw them away. Say, well, how could I? That is a ridiculous idea, or it's illegal, or it's immoral. But how could I change that into something that would work? You'd really be surprised.
So I have a question for you, Dr. M. So when you get over 10,000 followers, it literally just says 10K. So how can you tell, like, it doesn't show you the specific numbers, like after 10K until you get to 10.1? Is that how it works?
Yes, but you can click on right, so it starts showing the digits to the first decimal point after that. But you can tap on it, and then you see the number at the top.
Oh, I can hover over the 10K. So all
Or
you people who
hover
are
on
getting,
desktop,
yeah,
right.
I can hover over, and then it says that I have 10,033 now. So I gained 53 followers in this space today on my trip to 10. So of those 53 followers, I will personally award you out of my own personal bank account. I'm going to send you a $25 Starbucks gift card because I love Starbucks, my favorite coffee. And if you give me your email address, I will send you a $25 gift card for email that you can redeem at your closest Starbucks wherever you are in the world. And that's another reason why I choose Starbucks, because they're pretty much global. So
Samantha, you might not know this, but we coffee fanatics call Starbucks Charbucks.
I know. I've been to Latin American countries like Nicaragua, and they like when you say Starbucks and they lose their minds.
Starbucks.
It's like the cheap coffee. I know all the stuff, but in Canada, that's pretty much the best stuff you can get. And I promise you it's better than the Canadian Tim Hortons. No offense to everyone who loves Tim Hortons.
Fortunately,
I
it's
love
not.
Tim Hortons, but not their coffee. I get a headache
Yep.
from it. So
Yes,
It used to be
also
good.
try the
It's an
cinnamon
absolute
dolce
crime.
latte
all right.
at
So
Starbucks.
we're gonna do a giveaway. So how should we do this? Just randomly or somebody that DM'd me? What should I do here? You can't really do
How
it
about
random.
how about I pick a number from 1 to 53?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then I choose that. I try to find out which number that is. Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah, so then
How
you
you do
start
that?
from 9,008
I'm gonna
908.
go backwards because it's easier. I'm gonna take my top one and count back. So you pick a number, and I'm gonna take the very last one, and then like so. Let's just say you have 20. I'm gonna count the 20th person from the top. That's how it's gonna go.
That's the best way.
Sounds
Yep,
good.
yep.
Sounds good. So the number is 19.
19. Okay. Okay. If Evergreen, you got your mic back, we'll take you while I'm counting this up.
While you're doing that, Samantha, I just was gonna say a couple of sentences on the polymath. I know it's not the topic, but I just wanted to say that as children, we follow our curiosities, and children, would just really literally just follow their curiosity, and as we get older, though, we get pushed into specializing. And it's more so in middle school than elementary school, more so in high school, and then more so in college. So my thought is that many people would be polymaths by the time they're adults if it wasn't so discouraged as it is in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
Definitely.
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Definitely.
Sorry, George, you mean catch up?
Definitely.
All right, so the winner is, of course, it's in, I'm guessing, Arabic, and I can't read it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like gonna cheat and pick the one next to it, but I was like, no, I wouldn't be able to go to sleep at night knowing that. I did check the translator to check the bio, but social media influencer, it's a gal, Be Official 221. Are she still in the space? So she's got a cartoon. Should I make it that you have to be in the space to win?
Yeah, I think you should.
That's reasonable.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
that's
so,
quite reasonable.
because otherwise it's really hard for me to get. All right, we'll go with somebody. I got to pick the next one. Let's see here. All right, next one from her is, guess what? I think he's still in the space. Jesse, you're the next one. You get the $25 gift card from Starbucks.
Well, I mean, that's pretty awesome. I won't say no to a free win. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's cool.
All right. So yeah, just so happened to be right next to her. So send me your email address and I will send you a Starbucks card, 25. And you're from Canada, Jesse?
I am from Canada.
Oh, okay. Well, you easily have Starbucks everywhere. I can send you Tim Hortons if you prefer Tim Hortons.
Oh, fuck no. Respectfully. It used to be good. It really did.
Keep it Disney, my friend.
That's a definitive no.
Yeah. I'll take McDonald's coffee over Tim Hortons every single time now. It's that much better.
I'm going to send you a Starbucks one because it's super easy for me. Because I have a Starbucks account and I could just go on there and easily do it. McDonald's, I'd have to create one. So, all right.
Cool.
So thank you everyone for coming tonight. I hit 10,000 followers, 10,033. So if a few people unfollow me after the event's over because they didn't win, I should still be over the 10K. So,
struck another blow for impromptu spaces, I'll tell you.
Oh, I heard that.
Really a lot of fun. Hope it was
That's right.
Hope it was as much fun to the listeners as it was to me and Samantha and Dr. M.
Oh, and while we're in the space, Dr. M, can you grab the space from this morning and put it up in the nest for anyone who wants to listen to that replay? So
Absolutely.
I was in an interview this morning with Indra Bartona. She runs the Positivity Vibe Tribe, and she's got this really cool community to add positivity in your space. So Dr. M is going to post an interview I did with her in her space this morning. And
yeah, it was terrific, really terrific.
Oh, thank you. Or if it was yesterday, if you're from Africa, because it's morning for you. So this would have been last night. And so Anyway, so she has this Positivity Vibe Tribe. So there's a couple options when you see her profile. You can go there. You can find about the Positivity Vibe Tribe community on Twitter and join it for some really great. She's got great meditations, some great mindsets, and a good community focused on positivity. So if you're interested in that. But this particular interview, although it wasn't business focused, it was personal focused. And I shared, it was a 2-hour interview, and I shared some serious tips and resources and how to create positive moments in your life. And I'll just let Dr. M and George tell you, I'll let you give their feedback about why you might want to listen to it, because it's kind of hard for me to say it. So in the space, there's a replay for 30 days. If you can't listen to it today, what you can do is go to the tweet that Dr. M put in the nest, and then you can, oh, I thought you did the replay one up there. Can you put the replay one up there so it shows
Yes,
easy?
sure. Yes, of course.
Yeah, let's take that one down. And then just put the one up for the replay. You can actually bookmark it so that
While
you can
he's
listen
doing
to it later.
while he's doing that, let me answer Samantha's question, which is what was it that was so good about it? Which was that Samantha was really able to give specifics through stories, as she usually does, through stories, but practical suggestions for how to be more positive and how to create positive moments, not just how to be a more positive human being, not a bunch of platitudes, but how to take certain kinds of moments and turn them into more positive moments. And so literally some of the words to say, some of the ways to do it, really practical. And I personally think you'll get a lot out of it.
Yes, it's also it's rare in that it's very heartfelt. So it really is influential. So listen, please.
And tomorrow at 5, I will be on with Madeline Sklar, talking about building followers on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's also a very valuable space.
Yeah, that's right. So if you want to build your followers, follow George. So you can follow George and Saman and I, our Dr. M and I. And you can click that you can see when we're in spaces. All of us are been doing Twitter spaces. In fact, we probably would be considered top Twitter spaces experts in the world. And we generally run stellar spaces, whether we're being interviewed or contributing. We get asked to be on interviews a lot. So if you're interested in those kind of spaces, hit the notifications for spaces. And then that space that they're talking about that I was in this morning that I was being interviewed for, I actually thought they'd say something different than what they did, but I shared some frameworks or some tools that I have created to learn how to how do I say? I'm getting tired, of course, because it's really late. So I actually put it in the nest, actually. So in the nest, one of the things I talk about in that interview this morning was 6 simple steps to convert a negative experience into a positive one. So you can look at that thread. It's not my best thread, but I quickly threw it up to make sure that I could use it when I was in the interview this morning. And so in there, I talk about trying to keep when you're in a space where you're just emotional or you're going through some serious stuff and you just don't have the capacity to talk along with people, this tip that I share in this space will work. It's also about creating positive moments all the time and being very intentional with people. And when you do that, you create positivity in their life, but also in your own, and that manifests. Like when you listen, I'm generally a really happy person, but when you listen to that space, you're going to hear me talk about some serious tragedies. And especially when I'm in African spaces, they're always surprised that this pretty little white girl from Canada didn't have this crazy, amazing life growing up. And they realize that it doesn't matter about the color of your skin or your eyes or where you're born, that trauma is trauma, and that we all at the core have very deeply human, painful experiences that cross all cultures. And I do talk a little bit about it in this space. It's extremely personal, but I give actionable how to overcome, what you can say to improve a situation and improve your life. And I got a lot of DMs from people telling me how much of an impact it made. And some of the things I shared in there, I've shared across the world to a lot of people and got positive DMs telling me how it's changed their lives. So if you're interested in that kind of space, listen to the replay. And like I said, it's there for 30 days and you can bookmark it if you can't listen to it today or tomorrow or whenever. So I'd like to thank...
You should get it up on YouTube with audio. Are you member Audio Lab yet?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Inter said I could do that. So I might put it on YouTube later.
I would definitely put that on YouTube. Use that as if you're now a beta tester for Audio Lab, give them that URL and let them do it.
We just talked over a lot of people. Okay, we're just talking about some tech talk in the background. So I'd like to especially thank my gracious hosts. I know I couldn't make George a co-host for some reason. There was a technical issue in the background and it wouldn't allow me to hit, but he was co-hosting. And then also with Dr. M, who's also co-hosting. And Dr. M, if you want to support, you can support him. I really recommend. He recently started Super Follows, and so he's offering micro mentoring for it's like $10 US a month, which is very, very low considering the micro mentoring you're going to get from him. And because he just opened it up, it's a very small group, so you'll get some intimate advice from him at that. So check him out and you can super follow him to support him and get an access to his micro mentoring, which is really valuable. He's a doctor of robotics, marketing expert, as well as he's created musics and productions. He knows a lot about audio. He's very well versed at Polymath. And then also I have a Polymath community. So if you want to know more about the Polymath community, you can check that out. It's on my bio. I should have talked about it earlier. So there's a community where we support each other. You can find out more on the website. I would normally talk about it more, but I'm going to crash in any time now, and I need to be able to do my interview tomorrow sharply because it's recorded and going to be posted online.
Good luck. Great job. Great.
Amazing
great space. Thanks.
Thanks everyone. It was amazing. I am so glad. I feel like it was like New Year's, like that we brought in the new year with an amazing space, and it's like a new year. So thank you everyone for celebrating. You have no idea how fun this was. It has been a very long time since I run a business space. This morning it was super personal and I'm crying and losing my mind, and it was a personal space. And then this afternoon now it was just like a total professional space because we are all blends. So you could be anywhere.
Go get some sleep.
Yeah, you could be anywhere, but you chose to be here with us tonight. So thank you for your support, everyone. And we look forward to you in further spaces. And we genuinely hope that you freaking rock at your business and you and do what you love, and you love the life that you live. So thank you again. Take care. Good night to all the North Americans and good morning to all of our friends over Africa and India.
Good night.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.